And that's what leads to Sweden having more entrepreneurs than literally any country by capita. Like, I think it's by the next leading country is like, it's like double. Like, they're double the next leading country.
They might have the highest like amount of entrepreneurs produced, but how big do those companies tend to get in comparison?
They host the most billionaires in the world. Like, the most billionaires in the world come from Sweden.
Okay, they come from that country. Okay,
yeah.
Okay. When you're saying the host billionaires,
like,
I was
like they come
like
from
a giant, like billionaire meeting over there. That's why I was like, they host like.
No, people gain most of their wealth.
Okay.
Like, millionaires are created to billionaires, like through in Sweden. Like, they create billionaires in Sweden.
Okay, that's actually pretty crazy. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, dude. So it's like having like opportunity. Like, the United States, like, yeah, you have opportunity, but it's like ultimately that comes down to freedom. And it's like most countries, like most developed countries, have freedom. Like, most people who are gonna see this, you have the freedom to like watch this video. Some of you may not have like a lot of like political freedom based off of like where you're at, you know. Like, certain countries, like Singapore is a really developed country that's like has a lot of great economic growth and prosperity and a lot of opportunity there, and they're creating tons of millionaires like every year, but they don't have a lot to say against like the government, you know what I mean? So it's like opportunity and freedom ultimately is like different, but like in terms of like business contribution and creating businesses, there are dozens of countries where you can become a millionaire or like a possible billionaire, you know? Like China, there are tons of billionaires in China and Eastern Asia. And
okay, no, that makes sense. I guess I feel like a lot of people try to look at it from the perspective of just basically like, okay, we have Amazon, we have Facebook, we have Google, we have Apple, that all came from like America, and those are like basically the biggest countries in the world, and like everybody uses their products.
And the thing is I feel like people are like kind of just seeing like just like the face of like, that's America just hosts all the faces of these companies. You know what I mean? But the things that actually create these companies are in other countries, and those are where other billionaires are at. You know what I mean? Like, all the iPhones are made in China. That's where like there's got to be a Chinese manufacturer who's a billionaire because he's helping supply Apple with all those iPhones. You know?
No, yeah, that's true.
So it's
I mean, but like everything we get is like comes from China, like pretty much every product you buy, you see made in China or in somewhere, or some Asian country in general. You don't see it really too much domestic product.
No, well, not in the U.S. at least. Like, we don't see shit here made in the U.S. I can't even remember the last time I saw something made in the United States. So I don't know, and it's like I don't know. How can we even say that like the United States has the most freedom when like we house 25% of the world's prisoners?
Okay, that kind of, I feel like that kind of comes down to the system itself, and also just like the inherent like racism of the country and the history of the country itself. Like, when you like this,
I mean that's pretty fucking bad, dude. Like, that's pretty bad, bro. Like, even if it comes down to our history, that's pretty bad history to have.
That is, but I also don't feel like that's like we've come a long way from like we're like thinking from what America used to be. I'm not like discrediting, like, dude, there's still a shit ton of racism.
I was gonna say, have we really come that long of a way, dude? Like,
but we know, okay, but like, you're really gonna compare when people were thought of as property to now people can have a civilized discussion with different races. Like, that's a lot farther of a way than what we used to be.
I mean, yeah, like, it's a lot like farther of a way, but it's like it took us a pretty long while to get there, dude, and we're still struggling to do that, like, to this day. Like, come on.
It's not just the U.S. though that struggles with racism. Every country struggles with racism.
Okay. You know what? You're absolutely right about that, because like every country like definitely struggles with like racism towards like different like ethnicities like all the time, dude.
Yeah, no, it's like
it's go on.
No, yeah, it's just like in like for example, the BLM movement like last year. I'm not endorsing it or saying it was right or wrong, But that movement got so big, it even started people in other countries, like in Europe, were starting to, have riots and like
Exactly.
protests against it, because it's not just
It's not just in the United States,
It's not, this racial tension is everywhere in the world.
You know what? I'm gonna take back basically what I said, like, about like the United States and like their history of racism, because I was like, oh, like that doesn't make us great, because like we just said, every country and a lot of like citizens and like culture still like are like low-key still racist, like, to a lot of people, and like they don't realize it, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's hard to like dock the United States, like, in terms of like, how great we are, like, for that, when it's like every like country has like basically done it. And then, I mean, France technically still collects money from countries in Africa, so they technically still have colonies.
That's
yeah,
kind of crazy.
Yeah, so look out for France, guys. But back to like the topic of like opportunity. It's like, I feel like opportunity kind of comes down to like actual kind of freedom. You know what I mean? I kind of want to ask you, what do you really think freedom is? Because that's like such a big topic about like what makes America so great is like we have freedom,
Okay, this is actually something that is very true. We have the freedom of speech. And what I mean by this is, in other countries, you can actually go to jail for what you say in a business setting.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking like the obvious sexual harassment type of stuff that you get in trouble here. I'm talking about like, for example, in Canada, there was a case where this man misgendered somebody. I think she was a transgender woman. And that man's business got shut down and he was sent to jail for a couple months because he misgendered somebody.
Jesus.
Yeah, so in certain countries, you can get in so much trouble for what you say, whereas here, you have the right to say whatever you want as long as it doesn't slander somebody's name. It's like with I'm not gonna say good faith, because people can say like pretty terrible things, but as long as it's within like a place that isn't attacking somebody, I guess.
I don't know,
in a way
because
that
dude, obviously,
I don't even know how it works.
There's been many instances over the last several years where people have said things out that were basically out of hate and attacking people that they did not go to jail for, and we all know what the fuck I'm talking about. We all know what's been happening for the last several years, okay? So I don't believe that. But what I'm gonna say, hold on. I agree with your point that we are the only country, I believe one of the only countries, that does have freedom of speech actually put into law and put into the Constitution. That you can't, like, it's like embedded in law, like the freedom of speech, We're actually one of like the only countries, I'm pretty sure of that, like that it's written in our Constitution, like that, like, you can't take this law away, So
exactly, and then we have like the Second Amendment, which is like to protect the First Amendment.
Yeah, and
it's like we have like an option A, to like settle things peacefully, but we have an option B for when things don't work out.
Okay, I declare duel. Pulls out my cards, my deck. But it's like, dude, like the thing is like freedom of speech is like literally only one aspect of like freedom, because like, I mean, think about like,
what about freedom of choice of occupation?
That's exactly what I was gonna say, dude. Oh my god, you literally read my mind, bro. Like, I was literally gonna say, think about societal conditioning and like how we're like pressured into choosing certain jobs. Like, do we really have freedom when like we're literally basically like pushed by like everybody like we know and society that like we have to get these jobs or else we're not gonna make a living?
We do, in the sense that we may be pressured into it, but we have the option to say, no, I'm gonna go pursue whatever I want, and I will suffer the consequences of that situation. But whether I make it successful, no, because this is the thing though. There are certain countries, like I know, like where my parents grew up, they had to take an exam in their senior year of high school, and if they did not get a certain score, they could not pursue a certain occupation in college. They cannot, if they wanted to go to like become a chemist and become a pharmacist or whatever, they can't go unless in high school this is 4 years before you finish college that you get a certain score to say that you can go pursue this education?
Okay. It's like, I kind of get, like, that in a circumstance like that, or in a country like that, that's kind of a lot of pressure to, like, kind of know where you want to go at, like, a young age. You know what I mean? And to, like, what field. So that's kind of, like, not kind of a real sense of freedom. Because, like, you don't even get to, like, really explore your options. But it's, like, when you have countries, like, I keep bringing up Sweden, because it's, like, Sweden's pretty great. It's, like, they have, like, such, like, an equality of income. Like, their income equality is, like, so good. Like, that it allows people to just pursue whatever career they actually want. And, like, it's why they have one of the, like, happiest citizens on Earth, you know? Because all their education is free and their healthcare is free. Like, the freedom of choosing their occupation is literally, like, up to them, because they know no matter what, they're going to make a good living. Because they have strong labor unions. If they make a lot of money, they're going to get taxed a lot. And, like, it's kind of just been embedded in their society. So it's, like, kind of just, once, you know, if we tried to do this in the United States, just once everyone got over it, you know, like, got over that, yeah, taxes are kind of high, but it's like, you know, you get healthcare and everything. Like, you know, you just get used to it, and then the standard of living would just ultimately go up for people, you know, because inflation would become adjusted at some point.
Okay, so then when you put it like that, let's take the perspective of the rich person. That's like, if you were to transition, like, the American economy into something like this, where you have higher taxes to provide more public services. Why would I endorse that as a person that's, you know, making my own business, or running my own business, and thriving from the current system, when I took all the risk and could have lost everything, and now you want me to give it to somebody that didn't even take all that risk?
Because the thing is yes, like, you as the entrepreneur and the creator of that business took all of the risk in the beginning. However, there's a co-symbiotic relationship between an employee and a business owner, because an employee also takes not an equal amount, but they do take an amount of risk by getting employed by you, because they are now putting their dependency and their income in your hands, and you are responsible for it. So there is a co-symbiotic relationship of risk. And so when they take on that risk by getting employed by you, they are taking on parts of your risk as well, in terms of the value of the company that you have to produce. Because there's the three labors, or the three factors of production. There's the land, the capital, and then the labor. And the employee is taking a portion of that labor. And the thing is yes, the business owner should make most of the money, because they did take most of the risk and they own most of the capital. However, once they stop producing most of the labor that is done to produce that capital, they shouldn't receive the majority of those labor profits. The thing is now that, like, employee wages since the 1970s have only raised, not even with inflation, I believe they haven't raised with inflation, or they've only raised a couple of percent above inflation. And but CEO wages since the 1970s have increased by 180 times. Like, that is a ridiculously staggering margin, and it all has to do with the dissolution of labor unions. You can see in data that as labor unions dissolved, the wealth gap between the middle class, the upper class, and lower class began to widen, like, literally as the decades went, like, literally coinciding. So it's like, because you took on that risk. However, the employee also puts their value and their livelihood in your hands, and they take on that risk also, and they put their livelihood into the hands of your management. So the employee also takes a risk. So I'm not saying that the employee needs to make, I'm not saying the employee needs to make just as much as the business owner, but I'm saying the business owner doesn't need to make 180 times what the employee used to or makes.